And we're live. Hi everyone, this is Amateur Gamer, and now we're returning to Civ 5 Vox Populi, and yeah, we have a new version that came out June 12th. I'm expecting some hot fixes, but I am using this video to just kind of explain the changes. Most of it is really about happiness. There has been quite a bit of talk in the forums about the happiness and about how some changes need to be changed, and from the feedback so far it looks like a hot fix might be needed. I'm not sure, but let me just discuss what we can expect from this. So first thing, which affects every civ at the very start of the game, for the palace, now you actually have one specialist in the city no longer produces unhappiness from urbanization. So one of the issues before was that it seems like unless you go tall or go artistry, if you go wide, working as specialist is really tough, especially when your unhappiness is higher than your happiness, then you can't work specialist. The idea is this should help. Now, how helpful would it be? I kind of don't like the idea that you can't work specialist once you're unhappy uh, because I'm lazy, and when I get into a situation where I manually get specialists, and as a result I get unhappiness, it actually puts my citizens to work tiles or as laborers, and then once I grow happy again I have to manually do it again. It's really annoying, but that's just me. Anyways, that's the first change. Palace minus like one specialist doesn't create unhappiness. And then next we have Temple of Artemis. Now, there was talk that Temple Artemis isn't that good. Like, people don't normally go for it. So, in addition to what they had before, which is plus 10% food, plus 25% production, and also, the great engineer points and the single culture. Now you have two specialists in the city that no longer produces unhappiness. So, in a way, if you're going wide, you could go for this. You could go for hang gardens. I mean, if you go tall, that might not be a bad choice either. Yeah, Temple of Artemis. I'm not sure. Like sometimes if I beeline for mathematics because pyramids is so highly contested, I might go for this. So this might be useful. Though I will need games to confirm that, at least for my playstyle. And then next, all flat need reducers that were formerly 2 now 1. So from what I understand, it's like here, as you can see, -1 unhappiness from illiteracy. I think there are some, if I remember correctly, there are some buildings in the later era where it actually minuses, like subtract 2. Yeah, like this. Military base before it was -2 unhappiness from distress, now it's just -1. That's essentially basically the buildings that reduces needs only -1, not -2. I don't know why that's done, because I find late game happiness can be a mess. Like, either you do really well or things just go horribly wrong because all your cities just grow to enormous sizes. Alright, next we have another change to public works. So, as after some thought, basically, instead of uh the needs modifier reduced by 20%, now it's 15%. I think that's okay, because overall it's the increased happiness in the city by 1 that's like a bigger factor. So, to be honest, I don't see that as a big change. And if the modders or the mod feels like that needs to be changed, then that's fine. I mean, I haven't really used it yet, but from what I heard, early game happiness for some people for this version has been pretty brutal. I'm not sure yet. I have yet to play. I'm waiting for the third and fourth unique components. So yeah, that's kind of delayed. Next, units. Many range units, specifically mounted range units, have RCS reduced by 1. Most post-classical range units have RCS reduced by 1. So RCS is range combat strength, so something like a skirmisher. So I think before it has a 12 range combat, now it's 11. The idea, I mean, some people were complaining that range units were hitting a bit too hard and they should have more of a support role. I don't mind, because I will be honest, like early on skirmishers are amazing, whether if it's defending or whittling down the enemy forces so that you could actually, reach their cities with your catapults and such. So if they're getting weakened and melee units get a boost, I don't mind. Because, I mean, like, a lot of the times, let's say we're in medieval era, I bring some pikemen and longswordsmen and the enemy has some crossbows, my units aren't going to live very long. And even tertios, they could take some hits from crossbows, but not that many hits. So overall, maybe this will improve the survivability of melee units. Not mounted melee units, just your standard melee units. I'm not sure. Now, next, I choose Byzantium. I was hoping to show this, but I didn't actually have the time to play through it. But basically, for Defender of the Faith, that's Reformation. That's the one where you get bonus when you're bonus combat strength when you're defending, and extra if you're fighting against a foe that's following a different religion. So apparently before it was set at 15-15, now it's 10-10, so it's more. I mean, the yield you get from it is already pretty strong, because it's also plus 3 faith and plus 2 culture. Oh shoot, I don't remember. Let me check. I don't remember which is which, and I think I might have it backwards. Pantheon Enhancer, Reformation. Okay, Defender of the Faith. So before it's already plus 2 faith and plus 3 culture for all defensive buildings, which is already very powerful. Like, the culture you get from this is comparable to what do you call it? The faith of the masses. The reason why this was changed was because before this was 15-15, but look at Crusader Spirit. It was 10-10. So it's like Defender of the Faith was stronger in terms of the combat strength you get, and you get decent yields. I mean, Crusader Spirit, you need to actually take cities. If you don't take cities, you don't actually benefit from that. But I mean, some people still say the yields you get is a bit too high. We'll see. But I mean, for not doing anything, this is quite a bit of yields if you could get it soon enough. So yeah, there might be more changes coming to Defender of the Faith. I don't know when or how, but I think changes might be on the way. Next, okay, there is a reworked UI for happiness. I mean, overall, it's a mess for me. Like, I can't read it. I just look at where the unhappiness is coming from, and I would target that. But overall, yeah, it's not very easy to understand. Let's just put it that way. And I wish that wasn't the case. But I mean, there is talk in the forums about how the unhappiness, like if you're a new player, like this doesn't make any sense. I could read this: 2 from distress, actual to total deficit, increase by 0.36 for -1. I'm like, what the hell does that mean? Like, at least I sort of have a basic understanding how it works, but for someone new, if you ask the person what this means, they don't know. And even for some of the veterans, they're like, well, for some of the veterans, they say that they sort of understand, but overall, like, if you get population growth, how does that change things? Like, the mechanic might be cool, but overall, it's hard to grasp. And for people who, like, I'm not one of those people, but for people who like to do number crunching and know what they're getting into, this is not very clear. I mean, maybe this is improved. I'm not sure. For me, I just get a general idea, and I mean, there are some other changes to happiness which I talk about where additional changes might come. For example, so right now, if you look under the local happiness, you see factors that increase need. Before there was also a percent population modifier for needs that got removed, and instead empire needs modifier is increased from 3% to 5%, and capital modifier went from 20% to 25%. So basically, there's one factor that's removed, and the other two kind of scaled up a little bit. And this, along with some other changes, well, right now, puppets modifier now 34% of the pop instead of 25%. So, for example, before, if you puppet a 12 population city, before you would get 3 unhappiness from that for like the equal rights. Now you'll get 4 unhappiness. So now if you capture big cities, the unhappiness will be felt more. So they are trying to curb more of like warmonger and stuff. But the thing is, I feel like they're making it so that winning tall becomes easier and easier, and winning wide becomes harder and harder, especially warmonger. But we'll see. I mean, they're going a certain direction now. I'll wait and see. I mean, I feel like for new players, those who want to go on the war path, these changes aren't going to make this mod very accessible or very enjoyable for them. I hope I'm wrong, but this is what I'm observing. And next tech modifier now 75% was 225% of known text and fixed bug doubling value in some instances. So wait, what? That doesn't make sense. Like, the way I understand it is, before, let's say you're in classical era, you met some other civs, and what ends up happening is if they discover a tech, it will make it cheaper. That's what I'm understanding. Tech modifiers of known techs. So for example, let's say I research everything up to sailing, writing, mathematics, masonry, and ironworking, this column. And then one of the AIs have research drama and poetry, and okay, two AIs research drama and poetry, and one research philosophy. So drama and poetry will cost less than philosophy. From this, that's a pretty big change. 75% from 225%. I'll have to see, but that's a pretty big number. Unless they're... Oh wait, no, this is happiness, right? So I'm very confused with the tech and happiness. Like, it's always very confusing for me. It's not needs. Tech modifier now 75%. Yeah, I have no clue. It's under happiness. I still have yet to figure that out. One day I will. And next, base divisor for yields now 25 was 100. Makes yields deficit more sensitive in cities. What that means is, for example, right now I am working 2 food. What ends up happening is, now if you are short yields, like for this, you have distress, you have poverty, illiteracy, and boredom. If you are short yields, you will actually feel it a lot more. Like you will feel the change. The unhappiness you'll experience will be a lot higher. Is that a good thing, bad thing? I'm not sure, but I mean, recently people say early game. At least some people observe that early game happiness is very hard to manage. So it's possible that this divisor changed by a factor of 4 might have a pretty big impact. But of course, there are a bunch of changes that it talks about so far. So all of those could have an impact. That's why I'm expecting a hot fix soonish, because of course they want to fix this. Next, and the last one, unconnected penalty now 34% a pop was 25%. So let's say I have 6 cities total, and then during war, one of my 12 pop city, the road connection to my capital got basically pillaged. It's landlocked, so it has no city connection, so it's isolated. Before, it will only get 3 unhappiness. Now it will get 4, which is actually pretty big. So, this makes war, pillaging roads, isolating cities become that much more important. So, in a way, that does help war. But I mean, before, you already want to blockade city, isolated, and basically hurt the enemy with war weariness. So, I mean, that might be penalizing. That might be more penalizing for players who connect their roads too late, because otherwise the unhappiness really stacks up. Anyways, that's the end of this video. It actually went, I mean, it's kind of short as I expected. But I mean, it's a new version, there's some hot fixes, and